Welcome to Your Career Unscripted. I'm your host, Jane Bernhard. I will be interviewing business leaders and recent graduates on the different perspectives, strategies, challenges, and advice on building meaningful careers across different generations. There's no right way to build your career or live your life. And I'm so excited that this show is in collaboration with Texas Immersive Institute at the University of Texas. We hope to help you define success on your terms and not anyone else's. Shelley Zalis is the founder and CEO of the Female Quotient, an experiential media and transformation advisory company that advances gender equality in the workplace. The Female Quotient has the world's largest community of professional women and conscious leaders, reaching over 5 million people globally. Zalis is a pioneer for online research and was the first female CEO ranked in the research industry's top 25. In 2010, Zalis sold her company, OTX, online testing exchange, to Ipsos for $80 million. Today, Zalis works with Fortune 500 companies, impact organizations, and conscious leaders to advance equality in the workplace. In addition to being a contributor to Time, Zalis authors a Forbes column and has been named the number 18 most influential voice on LinkedIn worldwide. She is also the co-founder of #SeeHer, a movement led by the Association of National Advertisers, ANA, to increase the accurate portrayal of women and girls in advertising and media. Hi, Shelley. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. I actually cannot tell you how excited I am to have you on the podcast. I have watched literally every interview you've ever given, ever. I've gone to your events. I follow all of your social accounts, and your social media and the Female Quotient social media, I feel like, is the only social media accounts that I know of that I feel better after I see their content. So thank you for all that you do, truly. And I'm thrilled to have you here.
Oh my gosh. First of all, that's probably the best opener of any podcast that I have received. And I cannot take credit for any of that. We have such an amazing team. And, it really is, it's joyful just being in a space. I say when purpose meets passion, you're unstoppable. And I think that's what makes us so unstoppable. We have a hand-picked team. I hire for passion, train for skill. And I never look at a resume. And I think it's a result of why we have such an amazing team here. And just collectively, just your energy is infectious. So thank you, Jane. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. First, I love the hire for passion, train for skill. That sentiment, I wish more people had it, especially. So I was an actor before I went to business school, and then I got my MBA. And so I needed someone to hire for passion, train for skill. And I have had people who took a chance on me to do that. But I really resonate and appreciate that sentiment, because I think it's something, so many people are so malleable and have so much energy and can learn different things and feel like they have to go into one thing because they got a degree in that one thing. But that sentiment, I feel like I wish it was spread wider.
No, but I just did a little social clip, and I said, it's just not in a textbook unless you want to be a doctor, lawyer, or an accountant. You need to know where the spleen is. If you're a doctor, you need to know where, the different parts are. But the truth is, like, look at your passion. Who wouldn't hire you? When you love what you do, it's called passion. And that, to me, I can feel the heartbeat through this screen. Even the homework you did. I mean, I interviewed someone for, a job at the company, and I said, well, do you know what we do? And she had no idea. If you're not curious and you don't feel the business, you're not the right person. And to me, it's not about dotting like the I's and crossing the T's. It's about coloring out of the lines. You have to feel I'm in the business of equality. I'm not going to give you your script. I'm unscripted. You have to feel what it is and push the envelope, and don't wait for your task. I don't have tasks. I have my Fridays wide open for my team to come and discover and ask me about things. And, it's life experiences. We don't color in the lines. I don't want, just because you work in a group, that's what you're accountable for. But then push yourself out of the lines. That's what makes you grow and learn and advance. And that's what makes me learn. I don't know how to do what you do. I want to learn from you. I don't want you just to learn from me. And that's why I say it's not about top down, bottom up. It's all around. We're all growing together. When you talked about my social team, oh my God. I mean, they're smarter than I am. I can't do what they do. We all have unique values. That's why I hate titles. I hate titles. I tell my team all the time, what does a VP mean? What does an SVP mean? What does an EVP mean? What does a project manager mean? There's a million of those, but there's one chief troublemaker, and there's one chief value officer, or there's one chief goody two shoes, and there's one chief whatever. Like, we all could be a chief blank officer. We all bring value to the table. We're all important, and we're all equal. We all just have different things. That's why there's a team. That's why we're a we. Bring you. You're unique in your own regard. That's why I invite people by first name to meetings, because I need your secret sauce, or not so secret. I don't believe in secrets. Like, shake it up.
This is exactly, okay, I have wanted to talk to you for so long. I have a million reasons why. So first, everything you talk about, coloring outside the lines, leading with emotion, vulnerability, finding your superpower and your uniqueness and equality, all of that, I am obsessed with all those things, especially because I come from the emotion industry of the arts. And then it was very interesting for me when I got into the business world, and you're not supposed to be all those things. And I got very confused, because all of the things that you talk about are core things to me. And it's very interesting seeing that dichotomy. So when I started seeing your work, I felt included. I felt seen. I felt all the things you probably want people to feel when they see your content. And so a question I have for you is where you get these values from. Are they just innate to who you are? Was there someone who shaped them? And also, I'm genuinely so curious to know why you think so many organizations struggle to put the human first.
Oh, because, I became, I never fit in a box. And I always got in trouble not fitting. And the truth is, I was going to leave the workplace because I knew I couldn't fit in the box. And I didn't want to fit in the box. And the reality is, I knew that it would work for me until I had a family. And, it really started, I think I must have been 25 years old. And I talk about this very publicly, that I thought that I was perfect. I was the perfect employee. I came in early. I stayed late. I was kind. I'm smart. And I said yes, and I was polite, and I did all the right things, I thought, until it came to my first review. And I'm 62. And so this is a very long time ago. We had typewriters, and we had cubicles and all of that. And my first review, and it was with, I had all male bosses, and my first review was terrible. And it was, 8 pages. I still have this review. I kept it because it hurt me so badly. And it was 6 typed written pages, typewriter was very small type. And the first 4 lines were nice. I'm smart, I'm kind, I'm, blah, blah, blah. And then the rest ripped me to shreds. It was, I took too many clients to lunch, and I said yes to clients, and then came back and pushed people out of their comfort zone. And I colored out of the lines, basically. I was in market research. and that was bad. And I thought listening to clients was good. I thought that was the right thing to do. But in market research, you check boxes and you're an order taker. And that being out of the office, I think, was bad. And you're supposed to be in the office and answering the phone. And I didn't need a client lunch. I didn't care. But I thought knowing when clients' birthdays were and how many kids they had and how to make their life better and customizing things was good. But it was bad. I was supposed to be status quo, an order taker, standardized formats, templates. And apparently I was getting complaints from my fellow coworkers because clients loved me and they would call me directly, but I was a project manager. I wasn't the executive, and clients were requesting me, but that was bad. I was supposed to be sitting at the desk, but instead I was saying yes to clients and coloring out of the line. And so I was going to the team saying, oh no, but the client wants this. And they want to add some custom questions and they want this and they want that. But I was supposed to just be compliant. And so when my review was over and tears came down my eyes, which that's emotional, and I was passionate and I was aggressive because I was argumentative, meaning saying, but you're wrong, to my boss's boss. And I was supposed to sign the paper, ripping me to shreds. My head said sign because I'm supposed to, but my heart said I can't sign because I don't agree, which is argumentative. I looked at him because I was raised by parents and I'm one of 4 girls and I was raised confidently. I looked at my boss and I said, I can't sign this. And he said, why? I said, because you're wrong. I said, and one day you're going to regret this decision. And he looked at me and he said, why? I said, because clients should be right, even though I didn't know that. And he said, well, maybe, but this is a research company and I'm going to put a researcher above you. And I said, okay. I said, but one day you're going to realize that business development is important and clients are going to come first. And I got demoted. And I stayed in the company because I needed my job. And I kept following my heart and listening to clients. And I was really good at it. And I kept growing clients. But in business development, especially in market research, because you have to wait a long time for new clients to come in, I wasn't a proven track record because to change someone from one supplier to another takes 3 years. But I started finding new ways of doing things. And I started testing infomercials and I started testing banner ads and split screens and, everything that online started doing. And I started getting really good at that. And I started building consortiums with all these relationships that I was building. And I started finding my own way inside this company. If they weren't going to value me, I was going to value myself and start learning new things. And I started getting seen in that area. And I said, okay, I'll just take advantage of that. And I did. And those skills came in handy. And I started learning those skills with that whole online world. And I started testing all of the websites that were coming up and learning that whole thing. And clients loved me. And so I thought, I'm going to build the biggest relationships with clients. And so I took a negative and turned it into a positive for myself and started valuing myself. And it's so funny because I then got pregnant. I was married. And I came to work one day and one of my bosses, a man said, oh my God, you're having one too many client lunches, because I didn't tell anyone I was pregnant. I was 3 months pregnant. I gained 60 pounds my first pregnancy. Whole other story. And it was at that moment, I realized I will never follow my head. I will always follow my heart. These were heartbeat moments. And I talk a lot about heartbeat moments. And then I became the queen of infomercials and infomercial research and the queen of website testing. And that's when I pioneered online standards for ads. I mean, you can pause for a minute, and then from there, I mean, everything changed. But it was that first review that I decided to become a chief troublemaker and break every rule that made no sense and create my own.
I'm so inspired by your drive and your self-initiative. Truly, I hope someday to be able to do anything along the lines of what you're doing, which I don't even know if that's possible.
But you'll read an article. I don't know if you read it. It was like a 6-page spread in one of the big magazines. And they asked me about that review. And I said, well, let's call Bill Molt. He was the guy that did that review for me. And I said, Bill, do you ever regret that decision? Because I told him one day you're going to regret the decision. And he said, no. And I said, why? And he said, well, look at where you are today. He said, had I given you a good review, you would still be in market research and you would never have taken risks and, chances. And he said, so I have no regret. He said, because you've been following your heart ever since that day. He says, and so I'm so proud of you and shame on me.
It's an incredible lesson in following your intuition. And I think so often people have that intuition and gut feeling and then kind of squash it down because they feel like they're worried about what other people are going to think, or they're worried they're going to fail, or things like that. And I'm just curious, when you started Online Testing Exchange, were you confident in your vision? Like you mentioned, you were brought up confidently. Did you think, oh, this is going to be successful, and 1, 2, 3, these are the steps? How was that journey of building a company? And when you look back on that success, what are some of the lessons that you learned?
I had zero confidence, but I knew that no risk, no reward, or no risk, I'd have plenty of regret. And, I have a no regret policy. I never want to look back and say shoulda, woulda, could have. And it was this moment that once again, same bosses, I had all male bosses, and I had this idea to migrate research I was still at that company, to migrate research from offline to online. And I went to all my bosses and I said, I think it's time to move research to the internet. But it was a day and age where we were on 14.4 modems. There was no one online except wealthy old men with broadband connections. And all my bosses, Bill, Jim, Jerry, Paul, Ringo, Starr, they all said, it's too early. We have to wait. And I was on a panel with Larry Mock, the Chief Research Officer of Procter & Gamble. And we were on a panel together, and all my bosses were in the front row because it was our biggest client, Procter & Gamble. And and I'm whispering to Larry. And so when I said to my bosses, we need to migrate to online, they said, it's not the right time. We have to wait. And so here I am with the Chief Research Officer of Procter & Gamble. Mm-hmm. And we're having this sidebar conversation on the dais. And I come off the stage and my bosses were like, what were you talking to Larry about? What were you talking to Larry about? I said, I just asked him, when is the right time to come to Procter & Gamble and talk about migrating research from offline to online? And they said, what did he say? What did he say? I said, well, Larry said, we can come next week and talk to Procter & Gamble. And I said, great. So my bosses said, amazing. Paul's going to go, John's going to go, Ringo's going to go, and Star's going to go. I said, but what about Shelley? It's my idea. I'm going. And they said, no, it's a boys club and we're going to go. And I said, well, if I'm not going, I'm going to cancel the meeting and you can all wait for the right time. And that was the final straw that broke the camel's back. It was that moment of truth for me. It was ba-boom, 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 that heartbeat moment that I realized I'm done. I'm going to be in charge. I'm going to be my own boss. I am no longer waiting and watching for men and all of these status quo leaders to tell me when is the right time. So I had no confidence in that I was right, because everyone has always told me what to do, how to do it, when is the right time, what is possible. I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. I'm spending too much time with clients. I need to wait. I need to watch. And I decided, boom, I am going to be the CEO of my life. I'm going to be the chief troublemaker. I am going to break every rule that makes no sense. And I'm going to be the new pattern maker of my life. And even though there's only 14.4 modems, there is no online world, I'm going to create it. And I'm going to be the first in the world. And even though everyone told me it's not the right time, I'm going to fail, and I didn't have a nickel to my name, I'm going to go to Procter & Gamble, and I'm going to start my own company. And it was called Online Testing Exchange. Boom. And that's what I did. I resigned, and I left ASI. And I needed $1 million because I hired this guy that was doing website testing. And I said, here's the deal. I don't have $1 million, but I'm going to pay you $1 million whenever I get it. And we are going to build an online research company. And I just need you to do this, this, and this. And we're going to work in a basement. And the second I get $1 million, and he was 21 years old, I'm going to give it to you and make you a millionaire. And my father and my husband each said, we'll give you $500,000. Mm. And I said, I'm not going to take it from you, because and my husband didn't have it. He was a resident. We had no money. And I said, and if I lose it, I'll feel terrible and I won't take risk. And my father said, if I take your money, I will always play it safe. So I went to Nielsen. I knocked on their door and I said, I have a crazy idea, which is I'm going to pioneer online research. And they said, we love it. What do you need? I said, I need $1 million. And they said, for what? I said, for this young kid that believed in me and has been working with me on this thing in a basement. And they said, what do you need? I said, nothing. I'm going to give him all the money because he believed in me. And I gave away 80% of a company for $1 million. And I gave this young kid named Trevor Kaufman the money. And that is how I started this company, from nothing. And I am the mother of that invention. And then I went to one, and I have a CPG background, all consumer packaged goods. I knew nothing about the movie business, but I decided if I'm going to build a business, I'm going to go to the hardest business in the world to crack, which was the movie business. I knew nothing about it. And I went to Warner Brothers, and I went to the chief research officer of Warner Brothers. I decided I can do Procter & Gamble, but that's easy. That's womb to tomb, the hardest business. So I decided to go after the hardest business, because if I can build a business with the entertainment business, I can then do womb to tomb, easy. I went to Warner Brothers, and there was a monopoly, a guy named Joe Farrell, NRG. Nobody could crack that business. I went to Warner Brothers, knocked on their door, and I said to the chief research officer, it was Richard Del Belso and Dan Rosen. I said, are you, and they were doing mall testing, mall intercept testing, trailers, 2.5-minute trailers, 30-second spots. You have to deliver a ton of research in 48 hours. I said, are you perfectly satisfied with how you do movie testing today? And they said, who's ever perfectly satisfied? They said, of course we're not. I said, great. All I want from you is everything you're testing in the mall for you to give to me, and I'll do it for free. I'll parallel test. And they said, who's going to turn that deal down? And they had an exclusive, signed, sealed, and delivered. Everybody in the industry had exclusive relationship with this guy, Joe Farrell. He was the godfather of movies, of movie research. That's why nobody could break his contract. And I said, but we have an exclusive with Joe. And if we break it, we won't have data. He won't share with anybody. I said, let me see the contract. I looked in the contract because there's always a yes. You just have to find it. And in the contract, it said exclusive for mall testing. I said, it says mall testing. I'm online.
Oh my gosh.
There's our loophole. And that was the loophole. And so I took every spot they tested with Joe and I parallel tested and I built a normative database by calibrating. And not only did I build a normative database by calibrating, I said to the studios, all I want you to do is don't show anybody the data because it's not going to look good. But what online had that offline did not have at the time was verbatims that were amazing. Because I don't know if you remember this, but the verbatim testimonies were phenomenal. I said, so when you go to producers and directors and everything, just show them, give them all Joe's stuff because the norms were amazing, but give them the verbatims and see what they say. And so they started supplementing their Joe Farrell mall intercept with the verbatims from online. And at the time, it was data dumps like this because nobody was comfortable yet with online, reading it online on the computer. This was in 2000. And so I said, keep it like this. And I would deliver the verbatims with homemade cookies, chocolate chip cookies, and milk. And they would read them and they would deliver them to the studio chiefs. And the studio chiefs would say, holy shit, how did this mall intersect? And say, don't say it's from OTX. Pretend it's still from NRG. And they were like, oh my God, how did this data get so good all of a sudden? Because remember, mall data was handwritten by, people in the mall and erased and all. It was shitty. And they were like, this is amazing because it was bold and capitalized and exclamation points. And I love Tom Cruise, blah, 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 blah. It was like, and they were like, oh my God. And then when the producers would say, oh my God, I'm obsessed. Then the CRO, they would, Richard and Dan would say, this is from online. And online, what the fuck is online? And then they'd say, we want more, we want more, we want more. And by a year later, I had the best database and I calibrated already to offline to be able to feel comfortable. And then I said, now I'm not going to give you hard copies anymore. I'm going to teach you how to use online and you're going to save paper and you're going to start using digital format. And next thing you knew, I became the replacement for Mall Intercept, first time in 40 years. And I was testing for every studio. And we were the cat's meow. And it was a game changer. And I was signing in as Jane Doe, literally Jane Doe, because if Joe Farrell knew they were using an alternative, he would have penalized them. And I didn't want studios to have to lose energy because it was the staple. And then once I could do movie testing, which I had to build a DRM solution to secure video because I was doing 2.5 minutes on computer, which was unheard of at the time. I could do 30-second CPG womb to tomb spots and deliver results in 6 weeks. I was delivering it in 24 hours. Boom. I did the hardest thing possible, doing 40 spots a weekend. We were it. And it was a game changer. And that was that. I mean, I don't even know how we got into that story, but
no, I love the story, and so many things about that story are just so inspiring. One thing that you said, there's always a yes, you just have to find it. That's like, would love to have a banner of that in my room. What an amazing thing to say and to live by. And the people who I hope slash think will listen to this are aspiring leaders. And I feel like there's 10,000 questions I could ask you about advice for younger generations in leadership and in the workplace. I kind of just want to hear what you have to say to that general question and see where this goes, because I have questions about trusting your gut. What you mentioned in different words, feeling kind of squashed in your workplace, and then you found the way around and created your own path. Advice on that. A million questions, but just curious to hear what you would say if you were speaking directly to people who are just starting their career, what maybe you wish you had also heard.
Well, I don't know that I ever told that whole story. There's so many stories I've never told, but when I started OTX, I created the uncorporate rules, and I had a 99.99% retention and attraction rate. If you actually interview all my employees from then, I had 250 employees probably before I sold the company. I don't think they even really appreciated how amazing it was until they left, because it was a great company. It was a great company. And so I think, it was set up with the rules that were the unrules. It was filled with transparency, Bagel Fridays, no desks, no structure, no offices. And it was so ahead of its time, because it was all things I hated about the corporate world, and it was just this great culture that wasn't a culture. It was a culture that we all created together. And it was the beauty of it, and I don't think anyone really appreciated the culture until they went outside, to realize how great it was on the inside. We should interview all those people, because it was so phenomenal. But I think it's believing in yourself and let the pattern build itself, and following your heart. And it's what I've always done. And it wasn't easy, being, and I talk about this a lot too. I was the first, the second, and the third. The first is the pattern maker. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way, because there is no textbook. People would say, "Oh, what's your business plan?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't have a business plan, because there's no SWOT analysis. I have no competitive set. And so I'm going to make up the numbers." I had no idea what I was doing. I remember, this is actually funny. Mark Cuban called me and he said, "Wow, I love this online thing you built. Will you test my movie? I have a movie. I want you to test it, with your platform." And I wanted to do it so badly, because it would have made us so famous. But I said, "Mark, I can't do it for you." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because someone could lift it. There's a very good chance for a movie." I wasn't doing 2.5-hour films, or, I said, "Because someone could steal it and it could get out. And I don't want to risk that for you." I said, "Because if someone, because research, you're in a limited thing, but if someone shares it and doesn't like it, your movie could close before it opens. And I don't know how to protect. I don't have a DRM solution that could protect that." I said, "Now, in the mall, someone could do the same thing, but I don't want to be responsible for that." I said, "So unless you wanted to go viral, because that's a possibility, I just need you to know that's a big risk for you." And I had to caution him. And so I didn't do it. And so, the first, I always say, is the innovator. The second is the copycat, but they don't know what's under the hood. And the third is the sweeper. You've already built the ecosystem. The third comes in, they've raised the money, and they win. And so for me, I swore to myself I was going to be the first, the second, and the third. And that's what I was. But I was always 10 years ahead. So, when I sold my company to Ipsos, a young kid that worked for me, I pioneered the whole online ecosystem of Sample. He took that concept and sold it for $1 billion. I sold for 80 million. He sold for $1 billion. And so, but I have no regrets. I've never looked back. But in those days, we didn't have internet. So these stories weren't written. SurveyMonkey built the next generation of online survey, but they raised a shitload of money and built a much bigger engine and a much more commercial one than what I built. And, so many people have tried to take credit for the things that I did, and commercialized it. But I have zero regrets about it. I mean, I've had the most incredible career. I'm a 3-time movement maker that I never talk about.
And in that incredible career, I have a question that I very much want to ask you, and I'm so curious about your answer to this. One of the themes of the podcast that I really want to help people with is defining success for themselves, because I think it means something different to everyone. Everyone wants a different life. Everyone has different experiences, and everyone has different priorities. And so I'm curious, you mentioned not having regrets. I'm curious, looking back, how your definition of success for yourself, if you had one, or just when you think about how you viewed your priorities, how that shifted throughout your career when you started and what it is now.
Success for me has never changed. Success is being happy with what I have. And for me, it's my family. I have, it's family first, always family first. I've always told my kids, my no regret policy, that I will always prioritize them first. And they know they're my priority. I said, I will never miss a moment that matters in your life. So you tell me what matters, and that is inked above everything else. And so I said, don't miss me to miss me, but you tell me what is important, and I will never miss a moment that matters in your life. The meetings that I missed, no one will remember. The business trip I didn't take, no one will remember. But the important moments in my children's life, I've always been there for them. I mean, actually, when I was selling my company to Ipsos, which is a French company, my son, Jake, who's now 26, my kids played ice hockey, my 2 boys. And they were traveling ice hockey, AAA ice hockey players. My son had a Czechoslovakian coach, and so he had a big game in Czechoslovakia, and that was very important to him that I go to Czechoslovakia with him. And it was the week that I was selling my company to Ipsos in Paris, and so I commuted. All the other parents had their hockey bags, and they were hockey moms and hockey dads, and I traveled with this little suitcase because I don't check luggage. And so I had my high heels and my little suit, and we were staying in dorms. And so I never have cash. I use credit card. I never have cash. And so Jake and I, my son, we went on the plane, went to Czechoslovakia, and I have this little suitcase, and I took 2 dorm rooms, one that I slept in and one that I used as an office with my philo, with a fax machine, because I had to send notes. That was my office. And by day, the kids practiced. At night were the games. And so I remember unpacking my little suitcase, but I had all suits, and I kept going to parents' rooms. Do you have any extra hangers? Any extra hangers? And I was like Mary Poppins, hanging my suits up. And by day, I commuted to Paris. And by night, I was in the stands, screaming the loudest, so my kid would see me in the stands, screaming, "Go Jake, go Jake!" The passionate hockey mom. And then the parents, we would all go out for dinner, for pizza and pasta, whatever, at night. And I would say to the parents, okay, we all divided up the bill. And I said, I'll put it on my credit card. You can all give me cash, because I needed the cash to take the taxi to the airport because I never had cash. And they would all crack up because they'd see me waddling around in my little high heels and suit to the airport, because it was a little commuter plane to Paris. And then I'd be back. Da-da, 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 da-da. And I never missed those moments. I still sold the company.
I think that is such a beautiful sentiment. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time. I feel so inspired. I can't wait to share this. And also, I really hope, and am sure your story will inspire people who don't already know about it to really build things on their terms. I love what you said about coloring outside of the lines. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for empowering people so much. You have inspired me so much. I cannot tell you how excited I was to meet you and get the opportunity to speak with you. So thank you for coming on the show and for sharing your stories.
Where do you live?
I live in Austin.
Oh, so you are Austin.
Yeah, I moved here. I went to Columbia Business School. I
I
graduated
went to Columbia undergrad.
Oh, wait. Yes, I saw that because I'm always confused if Barnard and Columbia are like exactly the
When
same.
I went, Barnard was Barnard College for Women, Columbia College for Men of
Oh
Columbia.
my gosh.
It wasn't co-ed or anything like that at the time.
Yeah, but I moved to Austin a year ago and I love it.
Oh, good for you. Where'd you move from? New York.
New York City. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Okay, so, oh gosh, South by's coming up.
Yeah.
We'll be there again. Okay, so you have to do your podcast in our lounge.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah.
I would love to. I would be honored. Oh my God.
Yeah, so we'll do that.
That is the biggest honor ever. At 100% would love to.
Okay, so we'll start talking about that.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Your Career Unscripted. If something about this conversation inspired you, I'd love to know. Feel free to message me on LinkedIn at Jane Bernhard if there's a guest you'd want to hear from, or if there's a type of background you'd like to learn from, and I'll do my best to make it happen. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe to my Substack and socials, follow Texas Immersive Institute, and check out TXI's Patreon at patreon.com/Texas Immersive for more thought leadership on the immersive field. And of course, please share the episodes with anyone who you think might find them helpful. See you next time.